When did you realize you married the wrong person? We were in the bathroom getting showered and dressed for a friend's wedding. I was in the best shape of my life at the time, feeling good about myself, and I thought I looked good in that suit. She was finishing her makeup and I remarked at how beautiful she looked. I waited for her to say something nice in reply, but she didn't, and it just hit me. I couldn't remember a single time that she complimented me on my appearance. So I said that to her. I said, "You know, I always tell you how beautiful you are and how attracted to you I am, but I never recall you ever saying that I look good or that I look handsome." She stopped applying her mascara long enough to dismissively roll her eyes at me. So I made the mistake of asking her, "Do you even find me attractive?" And she flatly said, "No." I asked, "Why did you marry me then?" And she said, "I didn't think it was important at the time. I never felt so ugly and unloved, and it hurt even more when I had been feeling so good about myself for once in my life, 30 seconds earlier." I realized that I was hiding good news from her because I knew she would make me feel bad about it. I hoped she was going to grow up and stop being selfish and childish. She never did. This was my ex. As soon as I graduated and starting chasing my dreams, I would withhold telling her any small wins or successes because she was so insecure. She was never genuinely excited for my wins or goals. I knew I made the correct choice proposing to my wife, because when I get raises or promotions she celebrates for me. She does something special for me, like cook my fav meal, or go get an ice cream cake, or take me out to eat and surprise me with some of my friends there. Oh, every day. Every day she makes me a fresh pitcher of tea and brews a nice coffee for me to grab when I wake up. And if I have a hard day, worked my ass off, when I finally come downstairs, she can see what I need in my expression. She'll beckon me over, and I'll plop right into her lap. She scratches my back, massages my scalp, and I juicy lay there in asthma bliss. She's seriously the best. I try hard to not take her for granted. Not married but together for years. Got diagnosed with cancer and she kinda shut off. She then decided to leave several months later. At an appointment I was officially 1 year clear, which is a milestone. I realized I was alone through a lot of it. She never wanted anything to do with it. Was a revelation to myself that the relationship breakdown wasn't all because of me. Got my 3 years tests this weekend. Blood tests and scans, etc. Current GF is driving me and then taking me out to lunch afterwards. Hell of an upgrade. When I came home from the ER after being diagnosed with a severe lung disorder, and she immediately left me with the kids so she could go out drinking with friends. Her exact words were, "I need you to make them dinner. I'm running late to meet up with everyone. I feel you." Few years back, I had a 104-degree fever, passing in and out of consciousness, talking in my sleep, etc. I was in a bad way. My now ex-wife wakes me to ask if I'm okay and tells me that she's going shopping with her friend right now. We had a 5-year-old that she left in my care, despite my state, so she could go shopping. At 2 p.m. I finally managed to stay awake long enough to feed our child, after the poor kid tried to wake me for the 20th time. He was also very excited about this Christmas kids party thing. I'd promised him a week earlier I'd take him to. She could have taken him, but no, shopping. I managed to take a bunch of painkillers and anti-inflammatory drugs, load up on sugars, just enough to take him out, cause I felt so effing bad for him that day. Anyway, I divorced her a couple years later. There was a lot wrong, but this one event is the one that sent me over the edge. Edit. Damn, wasn't expecting this to spawn so much response. Hey, everyone saying I'm a good dad. Thank you. Truly made me smile after a long day. For those who've had similar experiences, I'm sorry, but hey, better to be alone and healthy than in a toxic relationship. Much love. 6 months after our wedding, when I found out about the emotional, he says only emotional but I'm pretty sure it was physical too, affair, through text messages. He had sent his affair partner screenshots of my text to him, in which I was begging him to talk to me and tell me what was wrong. They both proceeded to make fun of my desperation to fix my marriage, and his affair partner said something along the lines of, "Poor Valiant. She doesn't know anything and keeps begging you for attention and affection." The moment I read those words I realized how big of a mistake I had made. When he was messaging a side chick on our wedding day, and boy did it go sideways from there. Yo, I'm at my lame wedding today. Maybe we can chill tomorrow? No. Apparently he was just on vacation with his brother and sister-in-law and couldn't wait to see what else that mouth can do. Along with oh so many more, including video and pictures that continued to roll over his face up for the whole reception. My dude. Engaged, not quite married yet, when I had been on mandatory bed rest and caring for our infant son, after having emergency surgery, for nearly bleeding to death, after a miscarriage, and he came home from work and looked me dead in the face and said, "Why aren't the effing dishes done?" Called my mom the next morning and told her I was leaving. Hightailed it out of there 2 weeks later. My mother tells that when she returned from the hospital with me, my older sister was wearing a diaper that hadn't been changed in days, and the house was a mess. Before even asking to see the new baby, father asked what was for dinner. It took her a few years to get out, but she knew in that moment it was over. It was a good decision. He always was exactly that, and caring, inconsiderate, selfish, etc. When I lost twins, and he dropped me off at the hospital to get an operation to have my babies removed. He dropped me off at the hospital bleeding and went for a party with his friends. Edit. Fixed typo. Eater. To those that asked, I left this man years ago. I'm doing well now. Thank you for the award, kind words and chats. I honestly didn't expect this to get so many responses, but I did my best to respond to a lot of you. Unfortunately, this will never stop being a sore topic for me, so I cannot engage any further. Love and healing to those that have experienced this too. I hope you're in a better place now, and if you're not yet, take it from me, it takes time, but you will be. This will be a different answer. My wife is definitely my soulmate and best friend. I'll never find anyone that I can share my true thoughts soul with. She's everything I want in a mental partner. We complete each other in that regard. Sexuality wise, it's not the best match. Did I marry my best friend? Definitely. Was that a mistake? I don't know. After the kid was born, total shift. Turns out, only I wanted to be a parent. Mine too. She's 39 and still about herself over the kids. Mine put all her effort into our kids because she didn't want to be like her mum. Her mum left her dad when she was a teen, but also didn't want to deal with her and her siblings. Now my 3 kids have all hit double digits. She doesn't want anything to do with them. She goes out constantly, and when she's home, she just binges a show and is annoyed when the kids want to talk to her. She has said she is done with me, but won't leave, and after 2 years of flipping my life to change what she doesn't like about me, she is exactly in the same situation. But I never thought she would just drop and ignore her kids. I realized like 5 years into our 19-year marriage, but the nail that made me leave was when my ex said that our children hadn't earned his love, and that shook my whole foundation. Literally speechless for 2 days, and then I started thinking, wondering if I had earned his love yet, and I couldn't stop those kind of thoughts. You don't earn love, it is freely given, especially to children. Edited for confusion. I realized early on he wasn't right for me, but we had 3 kids, and our youngest has special needs, so I stayed. He didn't make this statement until 2 years ago, when I asked why. I never heard him say, "I love you," to the kids while they were growing up, and that's when he told me about the earning. I asked for the separation and divorce shortly after that. When I got her to admit she was having an affair, 10 years married, 2 kids. What a mess. She followed it up a month or 2 later telling me she never loved a person like she does with new partner. So welcome to divorce land. Population, me, I'm here with you. Same story, 23 years married, 4 kids. He never actually admitted to the cheating, even with all the hardcore evidence submitted to the attorneys. Just said it was all my fault. I was a horrible person, horrible parent, horrible wife, horrible human. Yep, his cheating was my fault. After almost 2 years of intense weekly betrayal trauma therapy, I am in a better place, but I will never trust or be with anyone again. I wouldn't survive another betrayal. I almost did, and TBH, There were a lot of red flag prior to this, but this was the catalyst. We'd been dating 4 years, slated to be married in 8 months. I noticed he was making lots of likes and comments on Britney's MySpace. Nothing huge or obvious. Then not long after, he locked his phone, but I managed to see he was also getting MSGs regularly from someone also named Britney. I had suspected, but no proof now. I worked swingin' nights at the time. Came home early one night to him in our bed, with you know who. Britney. First thing this effer says when I walk in on them is, get this, there was no exchange of fluids. I promise babe. Later Britney got a hold of me on MySpace. We met up. She had no idea I was even in the picture. We're still friends. I kicked him and his fluids out of my house. The end. Eater. Britney let me read all over their correspondence via MySpace and text. She was very upfront about not realizing he was with someone. I will admit Britney was not exceptionally bright, but he had this thing all worked out. He stuffed all my stuff in a closet, even removed photos of us from the walls. I don't wear makeup, and at the time didn't own much stuff. We were poor. I was the only one working. He kept getting fired for sexual harassment. Red flag, I know. He also kept the house dark while they watched a movie, then moved to the bed. Said it made it romantic. Eater 2. To clarify, I knew he sucked and keeping a job. He kept getting let go. It wasn't until this shit show happened that I learned why he had been fired from previous jobs. I will freely admit though, I was naive and ignorant. There were a lot of signs I should have noticed. First and foremost, how he actually met me. We worked in the same retail store, and he made a lot of advances and borderline lewd comments to get my attention. I didn't pay attention to the fact that he also did said these things to other women I worked with. I was 18 when we met, not used to getting any attention from men, and had pretty shit self-esteem. In the 4 years we were together, I was honestly miserable. So miserable I even committed myself once. I also thought he was the best I was getting. It was a really f up 4 years of my life. When she for high school flame for a year, whilst hiding it and staying home on my single income. We weren't working. I knew that. I was trying to improve things, and we'd talked about it, but she somehow neglected to give me that detail. I'm not angry that she didn't love me, but just tell me, don't do me dirty like that, after 13 years. On the wedding day, she spent a fortune on unnecessary things, and I knew I'd be the one fitting the bill on the credit card she ran up. So I told her no more. She said she wanted an ice cream vendor there. We already had 2 dessert bars. Told her it was not needed. She fought me on it, but finally agreed. Wedding day comes. I'm standing with my groomsmen. In comes the ice cream truck. Knew right then, sadly. It was a death of 1,000 cuts. One of the first was when I realized she didn't trust me. We had been together around 10 years at this point, but I had a moment of clarity and literally said to her, "You don't trust me, do you?" Before she could answer, I said, "You don't trust anybody," and she agreed. She would routinely throw the kids out of the tub and the bathroom, completely naked, because they splashed her while getting a bath. And not just that, she would yell at the top of her lungs at how bad they were. The kids were around 2 to 4 at the time. God forbid, the toddler splashes the water in the tub. Another time, I don't even remember the cause, but I tried to play mediator. As in, okay daughter, you did something wrong. Let's apologize to mommy. And she would. Then I'd ask mommy to apologize to our daughter. For what? For her role. And mom absolutely refused to apologize. I've known this lady more than 20 years and I've never heard her apologize. Literally never. The final straw was when one of our kids wanted a hug goodnight before bedtime. She locked herself in our bedroom and refused the hug because she had hugged them earlier in the day. Kids were crying. They didn't understand. I was devastated watching this unfold. Why doesn't mom want to hug me? I try my best to not let it impact me, but we share custody now, and I have to watch how she interacts with our kids. It's hard. The best consolidation is, the kids are getting older and they're starting to figure it out. I came home from a long day of work to find burn marks all over the carpet and linoleum. My then husband had spent the entire day playing games on his PC. While doing so, he had been ignoring our puppy, who had managed to somehow get a hold of a phone battery, bite through it, and cause a small fire. Thankfully, the dog wasn't injured. This event, on top of finding out, shortly before he had been lying about going to community college for almost a year, was the turning point where my feelings died. It was actually almost immediately after getting married. Our relationship had taken a nosedive as soon as we moved in together. But after we got married, while we were in Greece on our honeymoon, he absolutely lost his mind on me, in public. I had wanted to go see a beach on the island. That is supposed to be one of the most beautiful in the world. So we tried to catch the bus, but it never came. He screamed at me, telling me he hated traveling with me, and how could I ruin his vacation like this. Then we walked to the beach nearby, and he went swimming with his 2 friends, who he insisted come with us on the trip. I was too stunned and humiliated to do anything, except sit on a beach chair, and cry. I had no idea how he felt about me, almost 9 years together. He didn't propose, I did. He didn't tell his family when we married, they found out online. He never shared his energy or emotions with me. I ultimately had a realization that I didn't even know what he thought of me, other than that I was pretty. I didn't know if he thought I was cool or funny or interesting or smart. I would share myself with him, my thoughts, interests, humor. I'd get nothing in return. I realized it had always been this way. I felt unseen, unheard. I felt like I was boring and uninteresting. I didn't feel special. I just wanted to feel some sort of connection. I wanted our souls to meet. He seemed incapable. Edit. I have a few people asking why I stayed or why I proposed or why I married. We met really young. We went through a lot of firsts together. He was respectful. He was on track to a good path. I had a challenging home life. Although he was emotionally absent, he was secure and I never had felt security before. I waited on her hand and foot every night, brought her a tea, checked every room to make sure there were no intruders, went to the store for her if she wanted a snack, etc. One day I was really sick with the flu and asked if she'd get me a Gatorade from the store. She was shocked that I asked and said, absolutely not. Then I thought about it and realized that she had never complimented me, supported me, nurtured me, consoled me, or showed any level of emotional care for me. I knew at that moment that she never would. All she did was complain that I didn't do enough for her. It took me a while, but I realized I was in an abusive relationship. The worst part is, I tried to make it work. Still, after all that, and it was her that pushed me away because she wanted to move to Portland, but it was also because I didn't make enough money at the time. Was engaged, not married. 3-year international relationship, completely ready for the battle with the US immigration system, which I still feel can go directly F itself. When she had to leave, after a normal month-long visit, which was totally normal and what we'd been doing for years, we PDA'd all to hell at the airport and she said herself that she couldn't wait to come back, then went completely silent, zero contact, the second she got home. Europe. Took 3 days to get a phone call saying she was done. The 21st of December, 2019. I knew driving to work that morning that something horrible was going to happen that day. I could feel it, and I wish I could forget that feeling. Still ain't over it. Don't plan to ever be. On my wedding day, we were married at her parents' house, a beautiful place on a private country club. The entire day was all about her, and she spent more time hanging out with her friend and getting drunk than with me. I stayed busy visiting with all the guests during the day. After all the guests left, and it was down to her parents and me, I find her passed out drunk, upstairs in a bedroom. I picked her up and carried her to our car to take her home. Needless to say, our wedding night consisted of her sleeping it off. 5 years later, she went into inpatient treatment, and after she sobered up and was released, she told me that she didn't love me and wanted a divorce. When I realized that my wife loved playing Final Fantasy XIV to the neglect of our own relationship, she loved it so much, she killed herself. She had had a problem with obsessively playing WoW in the past, and we broke up over it, and she quit the game cold turkey and got a job, so we made up. and then we got married. And not long after the marriage, she was back into the gaming, but now it was Final Fantasy XIV. And we never had any quality time as a couple to just talk. All she ever wanted to do in her free time was drink wine and play her game. My wife was an alcoholic. She died recently, and in the course of going through her things, I found out why. Her iPad message history revealed that she had had a whole string of in-game boyfriends the whole time we were together. 12 years. Lots of sexting messages I found. And the night she died, she was excited and happy because she just married her current boyfriend in-game. But she partied a little too hard that night and drank herself to death. I messaged one of her guildmates to find out what happened. Turns out, no one ever knew she was married in real life. She never talked about me, but she sure did flirt with a lot of guys when she was drunk. And the guy she married in game was himself, married in real life. We live in the US, but she liked to play on European servers and meet European guys. And I had been on a business trip to Germany for a week the night she died. She was so angry at me for not taking her with me, but it was a business trip and not a vacation. I realize now that what she really wanted was an opportunity to F her Italian boyfriend. While I was at work, she had the Duolingo app on her phone to learn Italian, and her browser history showed that she had been looking up Italian cooking recipes. My wife never cooked, so she was clearly thinking about an in-person meetup at some point. I was grieving the loss of my wife when I found all of this out, and now I'm dealing with a lot of anger, too. If she hadn't died, and somehow I found this out, I'd be divorcing her ass right now. The moment I had to adjust my boundaries, I knew I'm with the wrong guy. The worst happened last year, when after being together for 11 years, he chose to cheat with my niece, who just turned 18. I'm 30 BTW. It's not the first time he cheated too. It just kept getting worse from there. All the gaslighting and psychological trauma and abuse. I'd never wish that to anyone, not even on his mistresses. I wish our country had divorce. We're in PH, we're still together. When I realized that they were just mirroring my personality the entire time we dated after several years of marriage. They don't have an original thought or individual aspirations. They have to be walked through every aspect of their life. They married me in hopes that I would mother them. They don't even have an interest in sex. After they found out, it also requires emotional intimacy on their part. Dragged them to the doctor who put them on SSRIs. Begged them to go to therapy. They kept quitting and could never give me adequate reasons why. We went to a couples therapist, who they manipulated into believing they had low self-esteem. The therapist told me to love them through it. I sought out my own therapy. The clinician helped me realize I was being manipulated into the role of caregiver without my consent. I told them I was leaving. They promised to seek help. New therapists saw them for 2 years. Within the first 7 months they were diagnosed as a covert narcissist. They eventually admitted to me that they got married to escape their home life. Their mother is a diagnosed narcissist who severely crippled her children emotionally and mentally. Him specifically by putting him into the golden child role. In her eyes he is so perfect, no one deserves him, and at the same time she degrades and demeans him when he uses agency. We are separated. I've never been happier. He's utterly miserable because he moved back home. He would rather endure his mother's abuse than be responsible for his own decisions. Hope they are happy together. They deserve each other. We'd been married several years, and the marriage had gotten increasingly worse. He only ate out of those stackable plastic plates with the dividers, because they reminded him of being a kid and eating with his parents. He saw them in the cabinet, and was outraged, because I hadn't stacked them inside one another. I stacked them, but at alternating angles, to ensure they were properly dry and wouldn't be wet between plates. He started lecturing me on how they fit inside each other in an infantilizing way. I'd known for a long time I didn't want to be married to him anymore, but in that moment, I stared at him with hatred and specifically thought, name of best friend from college, wouldn't do this to me. I'm happy to say I'm out of the abusive marriage and engaged to my best friend from college. When she sat me down and with a straight face said, I've thought about this, and you're not going to exercise anymore. I was jogging a few miles a day, and would usually bring kids within running stroller. She said you're a father and it's too time consuming. That's when I realized I made a terrible mistake. Lol. Catching her with another man in my car didn't help the case to stay married. When I found out he was cheating, not only was he cheating, but he used the same exact lines on his AP that he did when we were in the talking phase. After I discovered his affair and confronted him, he was adamant that he was not going to stop seeing or talking to her. I've never seen him so physically angry in our entire relationship. That was enough for me to get my things and go. Turns out he was a really good liar. One of those cunning fox types that lies about stupid little things to make the bigger lies not seem like a lie. This post made me think of a quote by Robin Williams. I used to think the worst thing in life was to end up all alone. It's not. The worst thing in life is to end up with people that make you feel all alone.